Chapter 12 of Fuzzy Mud. Wednesday, November 3rd, 7:08 a.m. Tamiya awoke to her favorite song. Cold air came through her window, purposely left open, just a crack, making the warmth of the covers that much cozier. Her music came on at 7:08 every morning because 8 was her favorite number, and Monica's favorite number was 7. Her best friend Monica also woke up each day at the exact time. Tamiya's thoughts drifted back to last year. There was a huge fireplace in the back of her 4th grade classroom. Her teacher had filled it with pillows, and when the students finished their work, they were allowed to go into the fireplace and read. The fireplace was so big, there was room in there for at least 4 kids, and she and Monica were usually the first 2 back there, side by side, reading their books and trying not to giggle. As Tamiya was thinking about this, a growing sense of dread slowly crept into her memories. The image of the pillowed fireplace gave way to the woods, her torn sweater, and Chad, his cold eyes staring at her as he said, "You're next, Tamiya." Her hand tingled. She brought it out from under her covers to have a look. At first she thought the rash had cleared, but as her eyes adjusted to the light, she realized the red bumps were still there, covered in some kind of powdery crust. There was powder on her pillow, too, and when she pulled back the sheets, she could see it all over the bed. It was a pinkish bronze color, the same color as her skin. She leapt out of bed and hurried to the bathroom. The powder washed right off, but the rash had spread. Red bumps coated her entire hand and continued down to her wrist. Some of the bumps had turned into blisters. Looking at herself in the mirror, she could see a crusty area on the right side of her face. She splashed it with water and then scrubbed the entire area very hard with a soapy washcloth and very hot water. There didn't appear to be any bumps on her face. It looked a little red, but that could have been from her scrubbing so hard. Her mother's jar of miracle hand cream was in Tamiya's bathroom. The night before, she had dabbed a little bit on each bump and then gently rubbed it in. Now she went whole hog. She dug her fingers deep into the chalky ointment and pulled out a big glob of the stuff. She smeared it on thickly over the entire area. She returned to her bedroom, where she bundled up her sheets. Then she took them to the washing machine. She set the temperature gauge to hot. "You're washing your sheets now?" Tamiya spun around. Her mother was already dressed, wearing a cranberry-colored skirt and jacket. Her eyeshadow was the same color as her clothes. "Because of my rash," Tamiya told her, "so it doesn't spread." "Let me see." Tamiya held out her hand. "It looks a little better, I think," her mother said. Tamiya knew that was because it was covered up by the hand cream, but she didn't say anything. Her mother's breath smelled like toothpaste and coffee. "Tell you what," her mother said. "You tell Marshall I'll be picking you up right after school today. I can give him a ride home, too, if he wants. But then I'm taking you to see Dr. Sanchez." Tamiya nodded, glad that her rash would get treated. 2 times 64 equals 128. 2 times 128 equals 256. She put on her backpack, positioning the straps so they covered the hole in her sweater, then walked quickly through the house and on out the door before her mother could get too good a look at her. She didn't know how she'd explain the hole. She reached Marshall's house just as he was coming outside. He was wearing his old glasses. He had switched from glasses to contacts over the summer. She liked his glasses better. She had thought his face looked blank without them. "You're wearing your glasses," she said. He shrugged and then said, "I lost my contacts in the woods." "Oh." In her mind, she could see Chad slugging him in the face, his contacts flying out of his eyes, although she realized it might not have happened that way at all. She could see no bruises on his face. He just looked tired and washed out, like he hadn't slept for 6 days. He dragged his feet as he walked. On other days, Tamiya had to struggle just to keep up with him, but as they continued slowly up the sidewalk, she began to worry that they might be late. Her tingling sensation had become more of a prickling. It felt as if her hand were being stabbed by 1,000 very tiny needles. "Oh, my mom's picking me up after school," she told Marshall. "She's taking me to the doctor because I got a rash or something from the woods." She showed him her hand, but he hardly glanced at it. You didn't tell her we went in there, did you?" Marshall asked. "No. Because if you did, we'd both be in big—" "I said I didn't tell her." "Good. She can give you a ride home, too, if you want." "Yeah, whatever," Marshall said. But she knew he was glad for the ride, glad to be safe from Chad. They turned onto Richmond Road. There was a lot of early morning traffic, and once again Tamiya realized how much safer Marshall would have been if they had just walked home the usual way. She wouldn't have torn her sweater. He wouldn't have lost his contacts, and she probably wouldn't have gotten the rash either, she thought, although she wasn't really sure how she'd gotten that. As they walked alongside the woods, that feeling of dread she'd had when she'd first woken up returned. It seemed to grow a little heavier with each step. She couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was she was dreading. She didn't think she was all that afraid of Chad, as long as other people were around. It was something different, something worse. It was as if she knew something terrible was about to happen, but it was so bad her brain couldn't allow her to think about it. They reached Woodridge Lane. "This is where I'm supposed to meet him," said Marshall. There was an area of weeds and dirt between the sidewalk and the fence. Tamiya figured that Chad must have climbed the fence and gone into the woods when Marshall didn't show up. At least there would have been people around, Tamiya pointed out. It was worse in the woods. "Don't remind me," and he kicked the ground. Tamiya felt sorry for him. She didn't like that way. She didn't like feeling that way. She liked it better when she used to look up to Marshall. "Chad's just a big jerk," she said. "I don't care about him," Marshall muttered. "A big fat jerk," she repeated, loud enough so that if Chad was hiding nearby, he would definitely hear her. They turned onto Woodridge Lane. The woods were on both sides of them as they headed toward the school. Tamiya quickened her pace. "We'd better hurry so we're not late," she said, but Marshall continued to lag behind. She walked faster and faster, and then something inside her made her want to run. It wasn't just the fear of being tardy. She felt scared, although of what, she didn't know. She was out of breath when she reached the line of cars backed up from the school. Only then did she stop running. She heard someone call her name. Marilee, Monica's little sister, was hanging halfway out the window of her mother's Mercedes, waving to her. Tamiya waved back using her left hand. She tried to keep her right one hidden. She waited by the curb as Marilee and then Monica climbed out of the car. "Where were you yesterday?" Monica asked. "I kept trying to call." Tamiya wanted to tell Monica everything, but didn't dare risk it. She knew Monica would tell Hope, and then it would be all over the school. "I don't know," she said. "In and out." "You need to get a cell phone," Monica told her. "They're not allowed at school," Tamiya reminded her. "You could use it after school," said Monica. "I was in and out too," said Marilee, "and then I went in again, and then I went back out." Monica told her sister to shut up. "So you'll never believe who I saw yesterday," she said to Tamiya. "Mr. Beauchamp?" said Marilee. "Shut up, I'm telling her. Mr. Beauchamp. He was jogging right in front of my house. He sees me and says, 'Bonjour, Mademoiselle Monique.' I swear I almost lost it." Mr. Beauchamp had been their French teacher since the 2nd grade. "You wouldn't think a bald guy would have such hairy legs," said Monica. Tamiya forced herself to smile. Marshall was relieved to see Tamiya safely enter the building with her friend Monica, and with no sign of Chad. He wasn't sure what he would have done if Chad had attacked her. He liked to think he would have tried to protect her, but he also knew he might not have. He reached the front door. The 7th grade was located in the basement. It had been the servants' quarters, but everyone at school called it the dungeon. It felt like a dungeon to Marshall. He trudged on down the stairs, doomed to whatever torture and misery awaited.